Today we are going to discuss the second chapter of biology, that is biological classifications. On the basis of morphological character, Aristotle was the first who was classified the plants into trees, shrubs and herbs, and then he divided animals into two groups on the basis of red blood cells, the animals who have red bloods or that who did not. After Aristotle, Linnaeus was classified the organism into Plantae and Animalia. This is the shortest way of classification, but there is a drawback in a classification. They don't distinguish between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. They even don't talk about unicellular and multicellular organism, and they even don't include photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organism. There is a shortest way, but lots of organisms are not distinguished and don't include in this category. Aristotle and Linnaeus is classifying the organism on the basis of morphological character, but besides the morphological characters, other characters that they are like cell structure, the nature of cell wall, mode of nutrition, habitats and method. We can include this character and classify the organisms. This is the most important tables. Questions were frequently asked from this table, and this is the 5 kingdom classifications given by R.H. Whitaker. In 1969, R.H. Whitaker will propose the 5 kingdom classifications. Monera, Protista, fungi, plant and animal were included in this kingdom, and the main criteria of the class: cell structure, body organizations, mode of nutrition, reproductions and phylogenetic relationship. After that, Carl Woese described the 6 kingdom classifications and the divide kingdom Monera into 2 domains. In the earlier classifications, all the bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi, mosses, gymnosperm and angiosperms are under one group, that is plants which have common character, that is presence of cell wall in their cell. Though they have common characters, but they are differed in other characteristics. They included together both prokaryotic bacteria and blue-green algae. They also included eukaryotic, prokaryotic organisms. They also group together unicellular and multicellular organisms. For example, Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra are placed together under algae. This classification did not differentiate between heterotrophic and autotrophic green plants. Though they are plants, but we can see difference in their wall composition. The fungi have chitinous cell wall, but the green plants have cellulosic cell. If we consider all the characteristics of fungi will placed under a separate kingdom like kingdom fungi. All prokaryotic organisms are placed under kingdom Monera, and all eukaryotic organisms are placed under kingdom Protista. We can see Chlamydomonas and Chlorella, which have cell walls in their cell, grouped together with Paramecium and Amoeba, which have leg cell wall. Later they are put together in different kingdoms. Then you go further for kingdom Monera. We know that all prokaryotic organisms are included in kingdom Monera. Bacteria are the sole members of this kingdom. They are most abundant microorganisms. Bacteria almost exist in everywhere. In handful of soils, hundreds of bacteria can be present. Their life form could exist in extreme conditions like hot spring, deserts and deep oceans. They can be survive as a parasites in other organisms. Bacteria can be grouped under 4 categories like Coccus, Bacillus, rod-shaped Bacillus, Vibrio and spiral-shaped Spirillum. Here are the structure of this bacteria. Let us talk about archaebacteria. They are found in extreme conditions like salty areas, in hot spring and in marshy areas. They are differed in other bacteria, having a different cell wall structure. These bacteria are responsible for the production of methane from the dung of the several ruminant animals like cows and buffaloes, and methanogens are present in the gut of these animals. Then let's talk about the eubacteria. This is called as the true bacteria and characterized by the presence of a rigid cell wall and if motile or flagellum. The cyanobacteria are also called as blue-green algae. They have chlorophyll A similar to green plants and called photosynthetic autotrophs. The cyanobacteria are unicellular, colonial or filamentous. They are present in fresh water or marine water. Their colonies are surrounded by gelatinous sheath and they form blooms in water bodies. They have specialized cell called heterocyst by which they can fix atmospheric nitrogen, for example Nostoc and Anabina. There are some chemosynthetic autotrophs which oxidize the inorganic substance into nitrate, nitrites, and ammonia and release energy for the ATP productions. They play a great role in recycling nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Let us talk about the heterotrophic bacteria that are most abundant in nature. Most of them are decomposers. They have significant role in human affairs and help in making curd from milks and productions of antibiotics. They also fix the nitrogenous in legume plants, and they are pathogens causing damage in human beings, crops, and animals. Some of the bacteria cause hazardous diseases like chlorella, typhoid, tetanus, and let us talk about the reproductions of bacteria. They can reproduce by fusions. In unfavorable conditions, they can produce spores, and they can also reproduce by conjugations. Let us talk about mycoplasm, which have lax cells, and this is the smallest living cells known. They can survive without oxygen, and many microorganisms are pathogenic in animals and plants. Then you go further for kingdom Protista. A single cell eukaryotes are placed under Protista. Cryophytes, xenoflagellates, euglenoids, slimoids, and protozoans are placed under this Protista. They are primarily aquatics. Being eukaryotes, the protestant cell body have well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. They have cilia. They reproduce both asexually and sexually by cell fusions and zygote formations. Then we move forwards to cryophytes. Diatoms and golden algae are included in this group. We can find it in both freshwater and marine water. They float passively in water currents, and they have thin overlapping cells which fit like soap box. The walls having silica which is indestructible. The diatoms left behind large amount of cell wall that is called diatomous earth. This is used in polishing, filtrations, and diatomus, the chief producer of the oceans. Then you move further for dinoflagellates. These organisms are mostly marine and photosynthetic. Depending upon their pigments, they appear in different colors. They have stiff cellulosic plate on their outer surface. They have two flagella, one placed longitudinally and another placed transversely. Due to their toxins, the sea appear reds, and their examples of dinoflagellates is gonorrhoeas. Then we move further for euglenoids. These organisms are freshwater organisms. They don't have cell wall, but they have a protein-rich layer called pellicles, which makes their body flexible. They also have flagella, and they are photosynthetic. In absence of sunlight, they become heterotrophs and started predating on the smaller organisms, and the pigments which are present in euglenoids are identical to plants. For examples, euglena. Then we move further for slime whales. They are saprophytic protists. Saprophytic means they depending on the dead organisms for their habitat and food. Under favorable conditions, they form plasmodium, and under unfavorable conditions, they form spores which are resistant. The spores have two walls, and they dispersed by air currents. Then you talk about protozoans. They are heterotrophs and live as parasites and predating on the other animals. They are primitive relatives of animals. We can see four types of protozoans. First, we talk about amoeboid protozoans. These organisms are found in freshwater, marine water, or in moist soil. They have pseudopodia by which they can capture their food, and they have silica cells on their surface. These examples are entamoeba, which are parasites. Then you talk about flagellated protozoans. They are free living or parasitic. They have flagella. This parasitic form cause disease called sleeping sickness, and these examples are trypanosoma. Then you talk about ciliated protozoans. They have aquatic, and they have thousands of cilia. They have gullet, and for examples paramecium. Then you talk about sporozoans. These are the infectious stage of the life cycles, and the most notorious is plasmodium, which causes malaria. Then we talk about kingdom fungi. This organism shows greater diversity in the whole world, and the examples of fungi are the yeast, which is the unicellular fungi, the toadstools, which we can eat, and the Puccinia, which causing wheat rust, and the Penicillium, which is used for antibiotics, and the first fungi which I have ever known. Fungi are mostly filamentous. The only exceptions is yeast, which is unicellular. Their body consisting of long, slender thread-like structure called hyphae, and the network of hyphae are called mycelium. Some have multinucleated cytoplasm called choanocytic hyphae. The cell wall of fungi are made up of chitin and polysaccharide. Most of the fungi are saprophytes, some of are parasites, and some of live as symbionts with roots of higher plants such as mycorrhizae. Reproductions in fungi can be take place by vegetative means, asexual reproductions, and by sexual reproduction. Fungi can asexually produced by sporangiospore or zoospore and sexually reproduced by ascospores or basidiospores. These various spores can be produced by distinct structure. These are called fruiting bodies. For example, ascocarp and basidiocarp. The sexual cycle followed three steps. They are plasmogamy, karyogamy, and the last one is meiosis, by which the haploid spores are produced. If dikaryon phase present in fungi, the phase only shown in Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. On the basis of the morphology of the mycelium, the mode of spore formations and fruiting bodies, the kingdom fungi are divided into four various classes, that is Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes, and Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. Let us discuss the first type of fungi, that is Phycomycetes. This type of fungi are placed in aquatic habitats or in moist and damp places. They live as obligate parasites, and their myceliums are aseptate and choanocytic, that means multicellular. They can reproduce asexually by zoospore or aplanospores, and their spores are endogenously produced, and their gametes are anisogamous or isogamous, that means similar or dissimilar. Some common examples are Mucor, Rhizopus, and Arbigo. You can commonly remember as MAR. Let's talk about the Ascomycetes, the second type of fungi, which are commonly known as sac fungi. Some of the fungi are multicellular, for example Penicillium, and some of are unicellular, for example yeast or Saccharomyces. They are saprophytic decomposers or corpophiles, means growing on dung. Their mycelium are branched and septate. Asexual spores are called conidia, which produce exogenously, and their sexual spores called ascospores, they are produced endogenously, and the fruiting bodies called ascocarps, for examples Aspergillus, clavices, Nudospora, truffles, and models. Then you move further for Basidiomycetes. For examples, bracket fungi are pebbles, and some of them behave as parasites, for example rust and smurfs. Their mycelium are branched and septate. Asexual spores are not found, but they vegetatively reproduce by fragmentations. Sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy brought about fusions of two vegetative but somatic cells, and karyogamy also present. With the help of karyogamy and meiosis, four basidiospores are produced exogenously, and their fruiting bodies are called basidiocarps. Some common examples are Agaricus, Eustylago, and Puccinia. Eustylago called smolts and Puccinia called rose fungus. Then we move further, the last type of fungi, which is called as imperfect fungi because of the absence of sexual stage of the life cycle. This type of fungi often move to Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. They have asexual spores called conidia, and they have mycelium which is septate and branched. Some members are saprophytes and parasites, but most of them are decomposers which help in mineral cycling. Some examples are Alternaria, Coleotrichums, and Trichoderma. Let's discuss about kingdom Plantae, which include all eukaryotic chlorophyll containing organisms. Some of them are heterotrophs, for examples bladderwort, Venus flytrap and Cuscuta. And the plant shows distinct phages, for examples diploid saprophytic and haploid gametophytic, which are generally called as alternations of generations. Then we move further for kingdom Animalia, in which heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms are included, which are multicellulars and have lax cell wall. They directly depend on the plants for their food, and their reserve food materials are glycogen. Their mode of nutrition are holozoic. They shows sensory and neuromotory mechanisms. Let's talk about virus. In the five kingdom classifications, there is no place of lichens, virus, virions and prions. They have inert crystalline structures in the outside the living cells. Let's talk about virus, which means venom or poisonous fluid. Ivanushki recognized certain microbes as casual organisms of the mosaic disease of tobacco. Then Berzinhag demonstrated the extract of the infectious plants of tobacco could cause infections in healthy plants and called it virus, and the fluid is called as contagium vivium fluid. Stanley showed that virus could be crystallized. The virus contained genetic material, either DNA or RNA. The bacterial virus or bacteriophage have usually double-stranded DNA and the protein coat called capsids made up of small unit called capsomere, and the virus can cause disease like mumps, smallpox, herpes and influenza. AIDS in human also caused by virus. In plants, they can show symptoms like mosaic formations, yellowing and vein clearing, rolling of leaves. In 1971, Theo Dana discovered a new infectious agent which is smaller than virus and causes potato spindle tuber disease, and it is free of RNA and lack protein called that's why it called as virions. Now we talk about prion. This agent consisting of abnormally folded proteins, and this is similar to virus. Sear-Jacob disease and mad cow disease are caused by prions. Then we talk about lichens. In lichen, we can show symbiotic association, that is mutually useful association between algae and fungi. Here algae is the phycobiont and the fungi is the mycobiont, and which are autotrophic and heterotrophics. Algae prepare food for fungi and fungi provide shelters and absorb mineral nutrients and water for its partner. We completed the second chapter, biological classifications. Like, share, subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you so much.